Hi, I'm Fred Burton with Stratfor, and I'm here today with Mark Schroeder, our Vice President of Africa Analysis. Mark, you and I were chatting in the office this morning about the recent uptick in tempo of the attacks in Nigeria. And, of course, we've had the horrific suicide bombing of the Teachers College as well as the high school, but that's not the entire story based on your analysis.
Exactly. Boko Haram, that Islamist militant group, has really conducted, on average, one attack every day over the last couple of weeks. And the suicide bombings that you mention are just one in a series. Also a pretty concerted small arms operation against civilian and military targets in northeastern Nigeria particularly is part of this ongoing tempo that you mentioned.
So we've had, 17 bombings in a fairly short period of time. What's your read on why this is all of a sudden started to occur?
17 attacks, not necessarily suicide bombings, though that's a part of it. Small arms attacks against villages, police and military outposts, or against civilian targets like banks and other sites. And it's really a concerted operation by Boko Haram. There are a few constraints against the militant group, but the political environment of northern Nigeria, or Nigeria as a whole, is also conducive to the militant group.
Is there any specific targeting? We've had the recent school attacks. Is there any kind of very specific target that leaps out at you?
It's really a combination of civilians in northern Nigeria, the northeastern region of Nigeria in particular, but also security forces there, the police and military that are deployed to counter Boko Haram. In terms of the civilian targeting, it's really an intention to instill terror in that population. And when you go out and attack a school, the Teachers College that we saw yesterday, the high school 2 days ago, it's terrible. And if you're a parent of these school kids, and remember the Chibok schoolgirls that were kidnapped in April are still missing. There is really little confidence that you as a parent hold in the security forces or in the government in general to provide that adequate environment for you to function in.
Let me ask you a 30,000-foot question. Why can't the Nigerian government get a handle on Boko Haram?
Well, that's a great question and requires probably a few components to answer. One is, clearly the intent on Boko Haram to remain alive and well and to conduct their insurgency to no end. But on the part of the Nigerian government, there has been hesitation to really empower the Nigerian military to be an effective force. There have been limits on the supplies to the Nigerian military. There is probably hesitancy to fully empower the Nigerian military from a political perspective. And we must remember that the history of Nigeria is one replete with the military overpowering its civilian bosses when you do have security concerns like what we see with Boko Haram these days. And the current civilian government under President Jonathan in Nigeria is probably hesitant to really empower the military out of this fear that the military may come back and destabilize the government over its poor performance working against Boko Haram.
Have you seen any Western targeting?
There hasn't been Western targeting in the last series of operations by Boko Haram. Of course, in 2011, we saw the very high-profile targeting of the United Nations country headquarters in Abuja that was targeted by a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. But apart from that, the targets that we have seen by Boko Haram this year have really been the civilians and the security forces in northern Nigeria.
Well, I know you're off to that part of the world next week, so safe travels. And that was fascinating wrap-up today on Boko Haram.
Thank you, Fred.
For more information, please feel free to visit our website at stratfor.com.